So, as some of you may know, I happen to play Vanguard. I've uploaded a couple Vanguard videos in the very recent future, as in the day of recording this and the day before recording this, along with a couple just, videos of me heading out to events that we can't exactly have right now. But I think what I'm going to start doing is keeping up with the card reveals on the channel to at least be always putting out some kind of Vanguard content, just so that the people that come to my channel for that stuff are going to be able to have that stuff. So, in this video, we're just going to be kind of going over everything that's been revealed in Premium Collection 2020 so far and what I think of it. And then from there, I'll just kind of keep up with reveals for everything as we go. But I'll be doing these probably at the end of every week. I don't know. We'll see how things turn out. Let's just get right into things. We're going to be going in the order of their set ID numbers, not the order they were revealed in. So starting things off, we have Storm Element Cyclones, which is a Cray Elemental and it's a stride that says continuous in the Vanguard circle or the G zone during your turn if it is face up. All of your units with no continuous act or auto abilities get power plus 5,000. And auto on Vanguard circle when your drive check reveals a normal unit with no continuous act or auto abilities during the battle this unit attacked, stand one of your rear guards. So basically, this is aiming to create a vanilla beatdown strategy focusing around restanding your units and just making them big. You know what this does? Gives Katrina a real flip target. So that's a bit of a problem. But overall, I think the idea of this is very interesting. I'm curious to see what clans will utilize it best. And of course, those of you who don't know, I play quite a bit of Extreme Fight. So, shouldn't be much of an issue abusing it there. But we'll see how it goes out in all sorts of formats. And it's a pretty alright card. We'll have to see again, like what kind of stuff we get, but it's for Vanilla Beatdown. There's not really much to say about it until we actually get our hands on testing it and all of the things that it's going to have support-wise. So I don't have much to say other than you run it as many as you run Katrina in Neonectar, and yeah, that's about it. That's about all there is. Moving on. Moving on, we have Holy Dragon, Crystal Luster Dragon. This is the Royal Paladin stride of the set, and it says act Vanguard Circle once per turn. Turn a card from your G zone face up, and until end of turn, this unit gets all of the original abilities of one of your heart cards. Now, again, in Extreme Fight, this thing is basically just you got the trade off. You have to ride the thing that you want, right? So, has to be grade 3. But on the other hand, you can't damage deny it like you can gas steel. On the other hand, you can definitely self damage. So is the damage denial actually worth it? I don't know. But in Clan Fight, this gives you access to some plays that are both really mediocre and also really good at the same time. It really depends. So this card, first off the bat, if you couldn't tell, it is made to work with standard grade 3s. Specifically, Messianic Lord Blaster, which is what a lot of people are really expecting this to go with. You're pretty much either going to be using it with that or Alt Mile anyway, because what else are you running with? King of Knights? But you can do some spicy stuff that a lot of people have been trying to buy out cards for. You can do stuff with the guy that legions with King of Knights Alfred. You can do stuff with Thingsaver Dragon. You do all sorts of Legion plays within Royal Paladin. It's really interesting, if nothing else. And then it also says continuous Vanguard Circle GB3 if you have 3 or more grade 2 or greater units. When your opponent would call from their hand to guard, they must call 3 or more at the same time, meaning this is the same effect that Spinning Valiant has, basically if your front row is full. So, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. The issue with this particular stride is that it's not what Royals needed. It's just kind of there. It does open up some interesting possibilities for deck building. The issue is that it really hits its strength either if you're playing blasters and you've already high rolled, at which point you how has the game gone on to you striding? Uh, or what could also have happened is that you are playing a deck that wants to make it to second stride with this thing, but second stride doesn't really happen all that often unless it's two meta decks that are like playing in specific ways, and it's just like Grand Blue and Nubatama are basically the only ones that don't force or that can force second stride in most of their games against pretty much anything. So unless you're playing against those, which I don't know how well this would do against those. We would have to see that. But I don't know. Like I said, overall it seems like a decent enough stride. Meh. Next up, we have the Kagura Stride, which is Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Zanbust Dragon, and it only has one skill that says Act Vanguard Circle once per turn, turn a card from your G zone face up, retire all of your opponent's rear guards, and all of your grade 3 or greater units get power plus 10,000 until end of turn. So this card isn't the flashiest thing, nor is it exactly the best thing, but it does open up options. If you're into a deck that maybe needs to hold on to its board and will have trouble getting it back, you can just first stride this, and it can kind of hurt them somewhat badly. Plus, if you have any grade 3s in your front row, on top of the fact this thing itself gains power, you're giving power to that stuff. And if you're running Force 2, that power is essentially making it not care that you're not running Force 1. So that's not that terrible, and it's a pretty good stride into certain matchups. It's basically like Gilgal, except you can't net countercharge off of it, but it's not really that big of a deal either. Especially because in Kagero, do you even Gilgal all that often? Because I don't. I don't. There's not really much to say about it. It's just it's good. Run it at 1 basically once Premium Collection drops, and if you need it, you need it. If you don't, well, there are 16 cards in the G zone. Next up is Murakumo's Stride, Ambush, Demon, Stealth, Beast, Nue Dio. It says Act G Zone if you have 5 or more units with the same card name each, and your Vanguard is grade 3. Cost Soul Blast 1 to stride this unit on your Vanguard circle from face down, and during the battle this unit attacked this turn, your opponent can only call cards from hand to Guardian Circle, and must call 5 or more at the same time. In addition, when it attacks, turn a card from your G zone face up and stand all of your rear guards with the same card name as one of your rear guards. Did somebody say Hyuga? Yeah, this thing basically only works with Hyuga since you need to have 5 things with the same name. Technically, it works with the Mandala Lord stuff we have in Standard and anything you can board 4 of plus Metamorphox, I guess. But it's really just there for Standard plus Hyuga lists, and it's a really powerful stride for them. The question comes in with, is it actually going to be enough? Because we've seen really powerful strides just kind of sit there and do nothing. Bustard. But then we've also seen, really powerful strides come in and just sweep through the game. Looking at you, Gasteel and Katrina and Morfessa to a lesser extent, I guess. And Spearex, but that's more on Ezel. Anyway, the point is, anything can happen. And although this stride itself looks to be a very powerful card, there is a possibility that Murakumo will still be just kind of meh after this. So we'll have to see exactly how things turn out with this. It's another one of those cards that I really think that we need to be putting a lot of testing into before we make decisions. But it looks like a really strong card, and it's definitely an inclusion in any Hyuga-focused premium list. So do keep that in mind. Next up, we have Heteromorphic Dragon King as the bulk. As the bulk? As the bulk of the mediocre strides begins? Yeah, you right. Yeah, anyway, this thing is just a stride for Nova Grapplers that says when it attacks, cost Counterblast 1 and flip a G unit face up. And stand all of your front row rear guards. This unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle for each unit that was stand. So, what I wish this thing said was that each of your stood units gets 5k. Whether that's static or per face-up card in the G zone, I think both would have worked fine for what this is going for. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying this card is just completely unplayable garbage. That's... You're going to want to back up on that for a second. So, if we take a look at cards like Bustard and the newest Victor Stride from the Stargate booster, whose name I can't remember, but it will probably be on screen if I remember when I'm editing the video. Future me, don't be stupid, please! These two cards and the way they're set up heavily rely on you running a lot of older cards from G-era. A lot of the restanding power comes from your Vanguard in the standard card pool. Now, that's not to say that there are no rear guards that can restand. Kick Kick Typhoon is a very good card that even sees quite a bit of play in Premium from the few Nova Grappler lists that actually exist out there. But there's not a whole lot to work with in that regard, and this gives you the option to not have to worry about that as much. Now, of course, the trade-off is you are losing out on super powerful strides, but it does give you more freedom to experiment with different things. Also, this could potentially open up different styles of play for Nova Grappler in the future, although I'm not 100% sure exactly what we would be doing with it. I guess it's possible something more similar to the way Beast Deities were playing in Standard might be what they're going for with this, but then you're still looking at a lot of Counterblast issues without, Boomerang and a couple of G cards going on. So, we'll see how things go exactly, and it's an alright card. I wouldn't say it's terrible, but, definitely not something to write off immediately. Next up, we have Nebula Dragon, Vario, and Dragon, not A-Star Vader. Big sad. This is the Link Joker Stride, and it has but one skill, and that is, when placed, turn a card from your G-Zone face up. Remove all of the markers on your opponent's circles, all of the protects from your opponent's hand, and this unit gets 10k in a crit until end of turn for each removed marker and protect. And then there's reminder text stating if there's not an Excel marker, the additional circle disappears, and the units there are also retired. Oh boy, is there a lot to unpack. Let me take a quick sip of my G Fuel, use code UNITED, before I continue talking about this card. Snow cotton candy, but that is a good flavor. Anyway, this card, the popular opinions on it seem to basically either be that it's trash or it's broken. It definitely sits somewhere firmly in between those two. It is not either of those things, at least not from what I can tell. And I do like the concept of this card. I enjoy the idea of there being something to counter imaginary gifts. While I can't say much for how viable it's going to be and how much exactly it's going to matter, I can say that I strongly dislike this card design, and I do think that it goes pretty heavily against the idea that Premium can combine the G and standard formats the way that it can. I also don't like the fact that it basically tells gift spam not to play. If Link Joker is ever in the meta, gift spam is not. Probably. Possibly. The downside, of course, you give up a stride. The upside is when you give up that stride to do whatever those plays would be, first off, depending on the deck, your rear guards might still be able to do that job for you, maybe to a lesser extent, but it could still happen. And secondly, you turn into Dimension Police and tell them PG or die, thanks. Again, especially against gift spam. I know I sound like a bit of a broken record, probably, especially not just with this card, but with everything. But we're going to have to wait and see exactly how this turns out. A lot of this set is kind of just relying on what's around it to see how good or how bad it actually turns out to be. So we'll have to see, but I do not like this card, and I do not want this card in the game. And moving on, next up we have Interdimensional Dragon, Grogrok Dragon in Gear Chronicle, and it is the first single clan card in either premium collection to not flip a card in your G-Zone face up. It says, auto on Vanguard Circle at the end of the battle that it attacked, counterblast 1 and bind 4 rear guards. Put this unit into your G-Zone face up, search your deck for a grade 3 or greater card, write it as stand, and it gets drive -1 until end of turn, and shuffle your deck. Surface level, this card is potentially absolutely insane, yet in execution, there's not a whole lot you can do with it. It has a couple of really interesting interactions, like triple Vanguard swings for next stage, permanently sitting on a 15k base with Metallica or Mystery Flare. If you set things up right, you can actually guarantee yourself a stride with Mystery Flare, but that requires having 19 cards in bind, so we'd have to see how that plays out. I think that's probably the best way to do it, since you realistically can pull that off first stride, but it does require a bit of setup and a specific way of building your list. So, meh. I don't think this card's going to have that big of an impact on the meta, to be completely honest, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to mess around with. I do think it's another card that we need to see, what's going to be around it and how exactly all of that plays out. But I think I can confidently say this won't be an amazing game changer for Gears, but it will definitely open up a lot of possibilities for casual deck building, and that is perfectly fine by me. Next up, we have our final stride in Great Nature. Let me just take a moment trying to pronounce this name. Omniscience Dragon. Or something. You know what? I'm just going to call it Omniscience Dragon Tic Tac Man, and you can't stop me. Tic Tac Man has a skill that says auto on Vanguard Circle. When your card is put from your rearguard circle or deck into the drop zone, you may put that card at the bottom of your deck, and in addition, it says auto on Vanguard Circle. When one of your rearguards attacks, Soul Blast 1, and turn a card from your G-Zone face up, that unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle for each face-up card in your G-Zone, and at the end of that battle, retire that unit. I'm going to defend this one, like the Nova Grappler card, and say, this card isn't terrible. I wouldn't even call it bad. But it doesn't work either. It does what it wants to do, but the issue is it only does it in a deck strictly built around itself, and that doesn't work with what we have in Great Nature right now. This has no purpose in a deck that you already have built. You'd have to retool your entire list around this thing, because most of your effects that trigger on retire happen at the end of the turn, and this retires at the end of the battle. In addition to that, you only have so much soul to work with, and that means that you're only going to get so big with it. But in a deck built around it, I'm sure you could somewhat fix that issue. And an advantage to this thing is that at the very least, it is going to consistently be able to get you a second stride Soa with or without drawing a heal trigger, so that's not that bad when you think about it. Also, that first skill looks really appealing at first, and then you realize that if that's what you're using it for, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything at all, just to not die. Why aren't you just going into something better? Surely there's better options that don't dig you closer to deck out while they do their thing. Like, maybe you're not going for the Mana Garmer play, I get that, but you gotta be something else, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But overall, I mean, the latest and not so greatest of Great Nature. It's a pretty alright card. You could definitely build around it, but I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact at all, even in decks built purely around it. And last but not least, we have Light Element Makira. It is a vanilla Cray Elemental with 8,000 power and 15,000 shield, which that's, it's pretty good for your vanilla beatdown strategies, I suppose. There's not really much to say. It's a vanilla, but being an 8k with that extra shield as a trade-off for not having a skill is pretty alright. And I think it's definitely going to be played in the vanilla beatdown strategies just because it's probably the best grade 1 that those are going to have, no matter what clan you're running. But yeah, that's about going to do it. That's all we have for Premium Collection revealed at the time of recording this, and bar this week. I'll probably just catch up on whatever we missed this week when next week rolls around. I should be, like I said, doing these weekly. toward the end of the week is more likely, although I may start doing them in response to when stream reveals come out. So we'll have to see exactly how that plays out with my schedules. But my schedules of sitting around doing nothing and when I feel like it is what I'm saying. Well, also when I can go out to the card shop again. Maybe not be recording on Saturdays, but we'll see. That's about going to do for this video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like, and if you didn't, there's also a button for that. And if you press that button, or you have some thoughts on some things I may have said about a certain stride, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. And yeah, if you're new here, be sure to check out some other content on the channel. And if you like what you see, be sure to hit subscribe for more. If you have ideas for Vanguard videos, topics for me to discuss, maybe themed card fight videos, I could try and get to those. Let me know as well. And if you like the content on the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. I do all sorts of content, and it's not always Vanguard or even card games. But if you're subscribed, go ahead, click that bell. You can get notifications every time I upload. And I guess I will see you in the next Vanguard video, unless you watch my other stuff, in which case I'll probably see you next episode of Cage Lock.